Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Last Word with Naya podcast. So I'm just going to go over some quick topics today that I have been thinking about. I've been doing some more episodes one-on-one like this on, Tartaria, on these lost civilizations, ancient, megalithic sites. And today I just want to go over a little bit more of that because it's one of my passions. And so I'm sure and I also want to talk to you about the CIA. Because, they're involved in everything. And I've been following this for years. And I think it's always interesting that they just slip these little... slip these little bits of information and declassify things and, think that nobody notices. And we're going to call these groups the alphabet people because there's definitely more than one of them. And we know that. So, like the Vatican as well, their version of that where they've gone around the world and they've basically confiscated every other culture's relics, histories, destroyed their histories, and then, whatever was left, they burned, destroyed it, reinstalled their, colonizing, their beliefs, and, destroyed any chance that these people were going to know or remember their own histories for the most part. Also, this is Quinn, if you guys see her. I'm sure you've heard her in the background. She is little fox terrier Dalmatian. She's my baby. Hi, baby. Hi, Mox. She is an attention seeker. I don't know where she would have got that from. She doesn't understand me, like, doing videos, so she doesn't know who I'm talking to, but she knows she wants to be involved. There's a camera. And she thinks she's the star because obviously she is main character energy. She's my doll though. But I wanted to just go over some of these things that have been coming out that I find interesting, and I want to pick brains on it and see what theories you guys have and what you think. So on the topic of the CIA and them releasing things, I am interested about this Ark of the Covenant that they said they found via remote viewing. And before they even finished talking about it, I was like, I bet it's Ethiopia. I bet they're going to say something. And sure enough, in this, I heard, them mention Ethiopia. And if you guys don't know, I suggest you go look at it and take a look for yourselves and do some research. But if you haven't, there is a church in Ethiopia. It's called Our Lady Mary of Zion. And it's said that is where the Ark of the Covenant is kept. And there are these certain priests that are chosen to protect the church. Only one of them is chosen to be able to be in the presence of this object. Every one of these, it's an honor for them to be chosen, but it's also basically a death sentence. Every one of them goes blind. They basically suffer radiation poisoning. It ages them. So they talk about they're these, guys that have been chosen to be the priest or whatever, and they'll try and run away because they don't want to be, around it. Or even though it's considered an honor, would you want to be stuck guarding this object that is literally killing you guys? But whenever anybody's like, oh, if the Ark of the Covenant was there, the United States would know about it. Why isn't it better guarded? Blah, blah, blah. I think it is. Like, I think this is exactly what it would be. Nobody believes them. This is like, you know, a third world country in Africa that, you know, nobody believes them. And nobody's been allowed to go in and film this. Nobody's been being able to be around it. You know, and they talk about, even in the Bible, about how the priests that are around it have to wear these breastplates with these certain metals and jewels on them to protect their, basically, you know, their vital organs and the radiation. And every time it talks about this object, it seems like a radioactive device of some type that can do multiple things. And it reacts with vibrations and everything else. So I just find this like so crazy. But I think that's exactly how it would be. I think they would literally have this place where nobody, it's like Area 51, right? Something that nobody really believes really is like exists or has, you know, any substance to it, because otherwise why wouldn't it, you know, why wouldn't we know about, like, so I think this is exactly where you would hide something, almost in plain sight. And if you think it's not guarded better than what you can see, or that we haven't known about it and been keeping a close eye on it, absolutely have. And it's like, why risk your own people for this? These guys are already guarding it for you. They're already doing the work. They're already, like, it's a lifelong thing. They're already doing it. Nobody's trying to steal it. Nobody's trying to do anything. People are searching all over the world for generations and decades now, looking for this object. And multiple people, I do believe Graham Hancock as well has gone down there. They wouldn't let him also, like, you know, be in the room with it. But, you know, I think it's the last thing people would expect. So, you know, keep it right there in the front. Also, you know, I've been, you know, these JFK files, I think, I don't know really what to think on the JFK files for the most part. I'm going to say that it, again, alphabet people. This was an inside job. He pressed a lot of buttons and they could, like, you know, they were able to get by with it. And edit the tape and things like that. I think it was the driver, personally. I always found it interesting that in that video, you know, Jackie Kennedy is climbing out of the vehicle, climbing away. And they try to make it seem like, oh no, she's grabbing for, you know, a piece of him or whatever. Like, no, she looked like she was trying to get away from whatever just happened. Also, if we're going to watch this video and do these things and look at physics and people that have analyzed that, like, his head goes backwards, you know. I think he was shot twice. I think he was shot once in the throat, and that's why he was grabbing his throat. And she was, like, kind of leaning in. And then I think he was shot again from the front. And that's when she tried to climb out and all these things. But we're not doing that. I mean, more alphabet people or, like, moves. But we're not... But that's just what I think. I think that whenever they release these things, over the pandemic, they did that as well. They released a lot of things on remote viewing, on astro, on being able to, you know, astral project, that this reality isn't technically real, that we probably live in a simulation. They really, like, aliens, they released a whole bunch of things, like, under the radar, you know what I mean? So, and I remember another another person that I watched, Jimmy Corsetti. Shout out to Bright Insight. If you guys haven't watched his channel, go watch it. The Rich Art Structure, Göbekli Tepe, all of these things. He is so tapped in. And obviously Graham Hancock, all these people, go tap in, guys. But he was talking about these great resets, these mass pole shifts that the planet goes through, and that, you know, looking at these CIA documents and this Japanese scientist, you know, studying this for decades, and finding out that the sun, you know, every 20,000 years or 12,000 years, you know, it begins to like pull in particles, and from the ground for us in these myths, like you know, Atlantis, these mass like cataclysms, they say like the sun goes black, this stuff happens in a day and it resets type of thing. And this Japanese scientist did a bunch of research digging on it, that this is something that the Earth does, and it affects all the planets in our galaxy because it's a mass EMP that the sun sends out, that causes our poles, our magnetic poles, to shift on the planet, which causes mass cataclysm. Which, that seems absolutely plausible to me, especially when they're finding evidence of this all over the planet. They're finding, you know, reptilian fossils and tropical plants and things frozen in frozen places. Because at one point it wasn't frozen. And what would cause that other than a mass climate shift? The Younger Dryas period, Graham Hancock talks a lot about that as well. And we don't really know. I think obviously there's people that they have studying these things, but they lie to us. They lie to us. They're like, you guys don't need to know this. Work the fields, work the factories, build our shit, build the country, shut up, don't ask questions. But obviously, you know, I think they've been doing this for a long time, having people obviously search these things out and study them. And, you know, when it comes to these mass cataclysms, I think that's really the answer for a lot of these things. And these flood myths and, you know, comets, causing, you know, mass climate change. So, you know, I think we don't really know, but there's people out there that are studying it. And I think, you know, that's worth the dig and the dive and studying it and looking for it. But when he was talking about this, I was like, oh my God. Same with the Rich Art Structure. You know, when they talk about Atlantis, I don't think it's the way they want people to think it was, of this, you know, like the movies or whatever. I think that they were more advanced civilization. But in regards to that, what are we thinking? Like the Minoans at the time were considered super advanced. They had indoor plumbing. The Egyptians, we considered them super advanced. But I think there were others, you know, the Sumerians, obviously, all over the planet. There were super advanced, the Mayans, the Aztecs, the Inca, super advanced. So in ways that we can't really explain, like but I think that's because of these resets. You get me? Like, we got to give ourselves more credit. We survive. We're kind of like cockroaches. Human beings survive. And that's why we've been carving shit into stone. That's why we've been, you know, passing these things down orally. However, you know, these stories, verbal stories, trying to keep track of these things because we've been through so many eras. And we remember, and these things that we remember, they get reintroduced, you know, and then when we look back, we're like, oh my God, how did they know that? Because it took us, like, but how did we know that? Because we looked at, there's multiple eras. What I've been hearing, like when I talk about the Tartarian thing, is like 5 eras theory, that there's been like 5 eras, and we are the 5th era so far. So I think there's a lot of interesting things to go down those rabbit holes with when it comes to the climate. And Göbekli Tepe was intentionally buried as a time capsule for us to find and decode. That's why they don't want us to dig it up. The pyramids, you know, they've been talking about these pyramids and these structures that go down, you know, 600 meters, that have these either staircases or coils wrapped around them. I talked about this a little bit earlier on one of my other episodes. It's a good idea. I don't doubt at all that the pyramid is an energy generator, that it's a large generator, a natural generator, and that there probably are more structures inside of it that they haven't explored. They know they're there. They don't want us in them, just like with the Sphinx, that there are chambers below it. They don't want you in there. I don't know if I can follow these columns, you know. We need more evidence. Scan it again and again. Let's do some scanning, because this is like life-changing. This is history changing. So I think that needs to be explored more. I think that we need more people on it. Zahi Hawass has already come out and been like, that's not true, but we know how he is. So, you know, if he's hating, there might be something to it. But I really think that we need to, like, have other scans done. I think the thing that they're missing the most with Egypt, that I've seen, you know, Bright Insight talk about, and a couple of these other ones, is this water table in the Great Plateau of Giza. Mr. Beast went swimming in it. The Osirian has this water as well. So I think they're missing this. Maybe it's factored in under that. And the scans, I don't know. I just need them to do more work on it, because this is huge. This is absolutely huge. Another thing I wanted to go into at some point with maybe a guest. I want to get weird with it, but I do want to discuss things like I was talking about the alphabet people, the moon landing, flat earth is interesting to me. I don't know. Like, I know every planet is round, you know, every planet that we've ever seen that they show us is round. I believe we can get out of our atmosphere. I think that we can get, like, the International Space Station, these satellites, they all sit in this area of our atmosphere before we get into the Van Allen belts, the radiation belts that encompass our planet, that they've determined are just too dangerous for a human being to pass through, that they don't have the protection yet. Like, NASA scientists when they were talking about it with Elon Musk's group with SpaceX, they said, you know, what about, you know, when you're going to Mars and going to the moon, you know, they said, as soon as we are able to have the capability of creating proper insulation and protection for the astronauts, we'll be there. Currently, at this time, we do not have that capability. So it makes you think, like, if we had that capability back then, Why don't we have it now? Why wouldn't we have kept building on it, I think. Also, I'm curious about why they destroyed all of the science, all the information, all the things from the moon landing. That seems insane to me. That's the greatest thing mankind has ever done, and you destroyed it all? I don't like that at all. That seems super fishy. Just weird things. I know they talk about it being like a Kubrick film. Stanley Kubrick filmed this, in Arizona. Maybe. Look at the CGI. Look at these shows and like the movies, the shows, and the like virtual reality stuff and the video games that we have now. Like, it's going to be harder and harder to tell reality from, but I watched a couple videos on this, and Joe Rogan had a gentleman on, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, that he's dedicated his whole life to this moon landing situation. And, talking about that it was filmed in low Earth orbit, and they had made it look out of the porthole, like that they were further away than they were. And then the lights come up, you see them all readjust things. And hearing Buzz Aldrin say that they never walked on the moon is crazy. Because if I was the first human being to walk on another planet, I would never shut up about that shit. You'd be building statues of me everywhere. I would have been the first human on an alien object, on an outer Earth extraterrestrial body. I would never shut up about it. There'd be statues everywhere all the time for a long time. And I think it goes to say something that when they did that press conference after, I personally think they look like they've been, one, told not to talk about it for real. Two, it might be lithium. They look like they're all kind of out of it, and they're very like, either that or they're really nervous. And why would you be nervous about this thing that you just did? This incredible thing that you just left the planet, traveled through space, landed on the moon, spent a couple days there, collected all this evidence and all this, footage. Why would you be weird about that? Obviously there's probably stuff you can't talk about, but for the most part, I would think you'd be able to just get into it. And I find it odd that they were so adverse to that in a way. And I mean, I think the idea of them lying to us was so we won the Cold War, obviously. But I think Russia and China know about it. I think they know. And I think, I watched the thing where they took our moon landing video and the most recent Chinese drone that they had sent to the moon, and that video, and they compared them. They ran it through AI, and the AI said that the American moon landing video was fake. And they're telling Putin this, and he's almost no reaction. He's like, well, yeah. Like, I think they've just known because they're like, all right, what are you really going to do about it? At the time, they couldn't prove it because they couldn't get to the moon. And, this just gets so weird, right? And I I'm not exactly sure what they'll end up disclosing, and what we'll end up like actually knowing and getting to know in our lifetimes. But that's why I appreciate people like, Jimmy Corsetti for going out there and just hammering and hammering and hammering on this Doge's group that was, in the World Economic Forum, that was working together to bury Göbekli Tepe and turn it into a tourist site, and building over it, planting trees, because now they're pulling all the trees up. Now they're admitting that the roots were ruining things underneath, and he might have saved it. Like he might have saved like Göbekli Tepe single-handedly by going out there and not being afraid to, champion this and put his life and career on the line. And they were telling him like he wasn't going to be able to go to Turkey. They were going to like make sure he like couldn't get in. That didn't work out. And, all over the world, there's things that don't make sense that they just won't give you answers on. The Mayan ruins and the Mayan civilization, the Aztecs, that's one of my favorite topics and one of the most incredible things I've been able to witness. And every time you look at these glyphs, and especially the glyphs of the rocket ship, the guy on a rocket ship going to outer space with his feet on controls, his hands on controls, a breathing apparatus in his mouth, fire coming out the back. If you go to India and you look at some of these ancient carvings and these temples, and it's insane. It's insane. And I know that there is more. Like we all should know this. Like whether it's the moon landing, whether it's and moon landing, that's NASA, right? So more alphabet people. And also with the moon landing that I thought was interesting, who set the camera up to catch y'all getting out of the spaceship? And the video of it taking off, of the little rover taking off from the planet, that shit looks sketchy as fuck. That shit looks so sketchy. Like, it looks like it's being pulled up by a little string. It looks like it's like some, old school scale movie thing. You know what I mean? Like when they used to do the Godzilla coming through the buildings and it's actually like this big, like a model of it. That's what it looks like. And there's sketchy things about that, but I have a whole thing about the moon. But again, like I said, I don't want to get weird and crazy, and there's just so much about our planet and about us that they keep from us. And I think it's because they know if we knew that we were for more and we did more and we have these capabilities, we wouldn't want to be in their factories and their offices and, for them, for the rest of our lives, we'd be like, no, dude, look at what we can accomplish. We're not. I feel like we could have been to the moon or Mars a long time ago. Like, for real. Like, even if we couldn't have gotten it done then, I feel like if we would have continued to work on it, we definitely could have made it happen sooner than, like, what's going on now. And it wasn't live video. Like, the moon landing video wasn't live. Like, they flat out told the media that they weren't going to film it live, that it was going to be basically a filming of a filming that was edited and then broadcasted. And And like I said before, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin coming out there and multiple times saying that he didn't walk on the moon. They never did it. Maybe he went crazy. I don't know. Maybe he's just a kook and, but that's what they used to say about Bob Lazar too. And then Bob Lazar basically came out talking about this element 113, I think, and Area 51 and the location behind it. And now, then they started disclosing that there is this element, and okay, we did have a base, but it's not there no more. We closed it down. Like, I just, there's so much. And these pictures of Mars, whenever they talk about alien worlds and civilizations, I think it would just be us recolonizing Mars again. I think Mars, they know that it used to have an atmosphere and it looked like Earth and it was similar. And I think that's really it. There's so many ancient stories, religious, mythology, whatever, of Mars and Earth kind of being twins. And I've got so many ideas. That's why I want to do this with you guys as regularly as possible, because I feel like it just builds up. And if I don't put these ideas out there, I'm going to forget. Two, it's going to be hour-long episodes, and I don't want to do that to you guys. So this one is only going to be about 30 minutes, 35 minutes. But I think I got what I wanted out of this one. Like, I wanted to talk about the alphabet people. I wanted to talk about these ancient sites, the new stuff coming out. And yeah, I also wanted to joke about a couple things. I've talked about Flint Dibble before, and obviously Billy Carson. And I thought it was so funny that Billy Carson just immediately jumped on this pyramid thing. Like, the man is grasping, and I love that. And I'm sure the academics out there are rooting for this to be fake. But that's why I said I really hope that we get some definitive evidence. And when it comes to the Ark, I think, again, I don't know why they're telling us this. Astral projecting, again, why are you telling us this? We know. You just tried to make people that talked about it crazy. You made them seem like they were crazy if they talked about aliens, if they talked about the moon landing, if they talked about, ancient civilizations, if they talked about any of these things, they were crazy. And I think it's their goal to get us more and more out of touch with the planet and who we are. Because then we have no power. Then we're just mindless worker bees, worker ants, build, replace us. The Matrix. Again, why are you telling us that this is probably the Matrix? We know! We've been saying this. And it's crazy because I always say that they, if you want to know what's going on and the things that they're not telling you, film and movies and books are a great idea because they're constantly giving you tidbits of what's going on. They're telling you about this. They're making movies about it. They're telling you about, why do you think, my whole theory with this Avengers thing, the way they keep doing this dimensional situation, about a year ago, I heard them talking about CERN and, one, turning CERN back on, two, finding the existence of at least a couple other dimensions that we rub along regularly that sometimes bleed into each other. And this is the multiverse. They had that supercomputer basically run all these numbers and throughout in known numbers and known history and known whatever, and they said that the conclusion was basically that there's an existence of a multiverse. And I think that's why they're pushing this with the Avengers, because they're disclosing things to you slowly but surely. like that. Look at Star Trek. Look at Star Wars. Live long and prosper. I'm a Trekkie. Star Wars, I mean, it makes sense, but it seems just kind of like a knockoff. I feel like Star Trek is better. I know I'm going to get a lot of hate. But I'm not saying I don't like it. And I have Star Wars things. Like, I have a Darth Vader, like, house key. I don't hate it. I think they were on the same ideas. And that's a rabbit hole, too, with Gene Roddenberry and where he got his ideas. And so I'm going to wrap it up with that before I just keep going and we're here for an hour. So tap in, like, comment, subscribe. Give me your ideas. I want them. I want your ideas. I want your feedback. And I want to do some, like, answering of those questions and feedback. She fell asleep. I thought she was going to be, like, all up in my business the whole time, because that's how she normally is. But good for you, Quinn. You're a sweetheart. All right, y'all. Thanks.